Hey, Sammy here. I'm not your typical job counselor. I work remote and I travel the world as I kickstart careers. This is raw, real, and on the road. Welcome to the Career Kickstart Show.
Hi, I'm Sami, and this is the Career Kickstart. I'm here with Dr. Kate Brown, and I am already jazzed. We were already talking. Honest God, I should have just started live streaming as we were figuring out the mics and talking about being differently employed and me discovering how I'm going to try to human during my remote working life. But I will let Kate introduce herself, and I would really love to hear your elevator pitch, Kate, too. So take it away.
Thank you. I'm super glad to be here, Sami. I'm just beyond thrilled. I put in a Facebook post that I've been on podcasts before, but not for business. My expertise has always been asked for elsewhere. So my elevator pitch is I am Dr. Kate Brown, and I'm an academic entrepreneur, which means I work in academia, but I also use my entrepreneurial skills to do coaching, speaking, and teaching elsewhere in the world to expert and non-expert audiences.
Nice. That's a good elevator piece.
Thank you.
I've never heard anybody who is a academic entrepreneur. That sounds pretty exciting. Like you go from holding onto a bunch of papers and then somehow you twirl like Wonder Woman and you're in like a white pantsuit.
I have the cuffs of knowledge.
I love that.
My invisible ivory tower. Yeah. Well, it was a word. I kind of made it up. I can't take all the credit for it, but another entrepreneur friend of mine, we were talking about what is it when you work in academia, you're a professor or a PhD or some other kind of academic specialist, and you also want to do this work. And for a long time, I thought that I had to do one or the other, or be two different kinds of people. Like I couldn't put my coaching work on my CV, but I couldn't talk to my business friends about my academic work because that was uninteresting to them. And so I struggled with it for a while. It's like, what am I going to do? And then I was like, why can't I be both? And the more I thought about it, when you work in academia as a scholar, you are an entrepreneur. Every CV line that you have is the result of a hustle. And maybe we don't want to call it that. Maybe we don't want to talk about how much we love money as smart people, but I don't know. That's just the way things are. So I've taken that on and it's become a thing. So I'm glad you asked about the phrasing of that, because I went to an academic conference a couple of weeks ago and they said, what is that? What is that? Okay, well, I thought it was pretty obvious, both of those things, but maybe it does need a little bit of explaining.
I just love it because I used to work as a university librarian. So like I am understanding of academia, like, I was professor adjacent, if you will.
Professor adjacent. That's exactly the word that I needed 5 seconds ago.
Like I understand, and you're right. There is this idea that in your invisible ivory tower that the subject of money is just so unseemly, which is hilarious considering the adjunct professor serfdom that pretty much exists in universities across the land.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Well, I put in a bio just recently that I'm an adjunct by choice. And I have to be very clear about that. My adjunct work is something that I choose to do, which is not the case for a lot of people who are hustling for their 5 courses a semester at 3 different institutions and are just trying to cobble together some kind of existence. And I think that is very unfair, but it's where we are right now. And so I think that entrepreneurship shouldn't just be taught to students, which is a lot of programs are doing right now, but why aren't we teaching it to professors and professor adjacent scholars? So.
No, it's so true, because that's the thing that I even say when I do career coaching for people, because I work mostly with tech. I tell them that you got to think like an entrepreneur, because you're going to likely have to be hustling every 2 to 3 years, finding a different position, because that's the only way you get a salary increase nowadays is by literally going to another company.
Yeah.
So I really like where you're going. And actually, my next question, because you were talking about how you were just like, you know what, I just got to be both. And like the world has to accept my complex nature, which I love. Taking up space, Dr.
Yes,
Brown.
that's right.
I love it. But my next question is really, how has your career changed over the years? How have you really become this, this professor, this entrepreneur, this body positivity, advocate? I've seen you on Instagram. You are taking up space in that bathing suit.
Right. The whole frame is me. Yeah. And that's, and I think, as I thought too, these different projects, I've got my new project with the academic entrepreneurship, but I also have my body positivity coaching, and I didn't want to give any of it up, which has been a theme in my life. I realized that it was doing the same thing. It was helping people have the confidence to be seen in your work, to be seen in yourself. I mean, all of those different ways. So to me, they're not different kinds of work, but on paper, I look like I don't even know what I'm doing, which I realize now. I'm going to be 34 this year, which means I am an original millennial. I came up in my emerging career just as the whole gig economy and, get your pay increased by getting a new job thing was starting to happen. And I know we've talked a little bit and might in a bit talk about failure. But my career for my parents at some points is a total failure because my very first job after college in 2004, was that true? No, that's not true. I don't know. I had, right? I trained, I have a theater background, and I trained to be a stage manager. So I had these dreams of being on tour with big national shows and, we rep theaters. I was going to be a big stage manager, and I couldn't get a job doing that. So I got a job in customer service at an insurance company.
Oh, God. That's the opposite of theater.
Yeah, but it was a job, right? And I was like, maybe I could do this. And I did that for a while. And then I went back for my master's degree in theater because I was like, I still want to do theater. And then I became a theater historian, which is totally different from being a stage manager. So, I mean, even within, I'm kind of going places. But eventually, I got a job teaching high school theater at my alma mater. So that meant on paper, dream job. I came home to my hometown, taught at, the place I came from, doing the work that I had been trained to do. And I was miserable, completely miserable. Because I don't know that the teaching part of it was great. I loved my students. I loved working with them, but it was everything else that I just couldn't handle. And so at the end of that single school year, I quit.
Okay.
I walked in one day and said, I'm not coming back next year. And then I had to tell my parents.
Ugh.
And they were crushed. And my dad said to me, you can't do that. You can't keep jumping from job to job. You have to get in somewhere at the ground floor and work your way for 30 years so you can do whatever it is you're supposed to do. So when I think about this now, I'm like, yeah, well, that's what's happening with everyone right now. We're going from job to job and task to task, and this pivot from one career to another is no big deal. But just 10 years ago, it was huge. It was a big deal. So I basically just do whatever I feel.
I love that.
And I went back for my PhD because I was working at the county government office doing transcription for murder cases. And that really...
Plot twist.
Yeah. And that really wasn't serving me very well. And I thought, what do I really want to do? And I would go on the academic course catalog pages and read courses about transnational feminism and critical literary analysis. Like, I want to do that all day long. And so I did. I quit the state's attorney's office, went back to school, And now I teach people how to use their email mostly. Yeah. My academic, I am actually not a professor. I am professor adjacent because I'm on staff in an IT department. So even that, how did I get to IT from any of that? That is, I can't figure out how to use my Bluetooth headphones, but I got your Gmail covered. I can do that.
Oh, well, it really does take a village to support someone on tenure. That's what I learned working at a university. There must have even been some sucker who was peeling some 70-year-old tenure track professor some grapes to keep them going, I presume. I had a good time in university, don't get me wrong, but there were moments where I was like, why am I the one who does your citations? You're 1 billion years old. Shouldn't you know MLA? But I digress. But I love the fact that you throughout the whole thing, because that's true, I'm going to be turning 29. We're both in that millennial age where, we remember a time without the internet where you could keep your shoes on going through an airport line. So we remember, the time before, but we pretty much have the fact that we've had to kind of scramble to just build a career, with different tech bubbles, the housing crash, and pretty much millennial life of looking at our parents and being like, that's not even possible, even if I actually did go up to the manager and shake his hand and look him in the eye. It's just not how it works.
Yeah, it's just not happening.
But it's really cool how you pivoted and you really used, following your gut and using all of your smarts, because not everybody can go into oh, no big deal, just transcribing murder. Oh, no big deal, IT. No big deal. I'm pretty much, the guy from Glee, No big deal.
Yeah. Well, I think that, all the questions you gave me were great. They kind of connected for me, and it's, it's certainly a personality trait. Not everyone is as, I don't know what you call it, risk. What's the opposite of averse? Bringing risk to them.
Attracting it.
Risk. Risk attractive. Yeah, because I don't, and that's, with my taking up space work too, it's, I'm willing to do just about anything, if I think it's going to help somebody do something. So taking risk is not a big deal for me. And it might have in the past, maybe when I was just coming out of college, I might have said, oh no, I have to stay in this little box and this is what I've been trained to do. But now I have tried and failed spectacularly so many times. Every single day I fail at something. And it's well, that didn't work. What else? It casts a wide net of risk, and then I just kind of see what comes back to me. And that's, I don't know. You just got to get really good at it. And I know that that's advice that people give all the time about career and entrepreneurship and how to make these things work, but it's really true. I have found it to be true.
Well, no, I would agree with that. In fact, for me, my most meh times in my career have been when I would hold on, when I know just let go. Just let go, Sam. So that actually, I'm going to hop over a question and go, since you're talking about, being, when you're riding the old fail whale, let's talk about what your biggest career mistake has been.
Yeah. So, if you talk to my dad, it was leaving. But for me, it was actually, I haven't told anyone this ever, but I actually started transcribing murders because I got demoted from being a secretary. I am the worst secretary or administrative, and I mean that very specifically because there are administrative assistants and there are administrative support people. But in this particular job, I was a secretary, which meant I had to hold the hand of an attorney, through the whole process of everything. Critical thinking did not come into play here for this role. So when, I just said I fail all the time. So I would make mistakes on stuff and I'd go, oh, that's no big deal. And he'd be like, that's not okay. I'm like, well, why? We're a team. We're going to fix this. It's all fine. I already fixed it. It's whatever. But that's not the job of a secretary. A secretary takes care of people in a very specific micromanaging way. So I got demoted. And it's not the demotion, because every mistake I've made, like the Ben Folds song, has brought me here to where I am. But the mistake was doing that work and just trying to make it something I could do. I am not good at doing that kind of work, but I was, like you said, hanging on. I was so determined to hang on to it, but do it my way that it was not a good time. It really wasn't, because I was just like, well, I guess I'll do this now because this is the place that I'm at. I didn't listen to my own advice when it comes to do something else. This isn't working. Do something else. I was stuck on it. So when you are not true to what you do best and just try to, I don't know, that fake it till you make it thing in an insincere way, that's not going to be helpful to anybody. So that was probably, and I think every mistake that I've had since then that had that part of it where I was just trying to do some work to do work has not worked. And those are the things now that I end up scrapping almost immediately. It's like, oh, I've gotten well enough in touch with the kinds of work that I'm best at and what I can offer people that everything else just quickly falls away.
No, and it's good that you're talking about what you're best at, because I think for a lot of people, they're uncomfortable and really just jamming in their zone of genius, dancing in that place and just really figuring, okay, these are my skill sets. Mm-hmm. Let's work with them, because there's a lot that can be transferred. Not everybody does get demoted to murder typist. Murder transcriptionist. Murder typist makes it sound like a complete. You're doing the notes structure.
Yeah. And that job was actually, I enjoyed doing the transcription because it requires it requires knowing what a pause means when you use an em dash or an ellipsis. Those are two very different pauses. And you have to have a good ear for that and to know the intention behind the words. So again, sure, it was a huge mistake and it was a real bummer, to have that happen. But it turned out okay. I think maybe if I hadn't been so bored, I would have started looking at the course catalog pages.
No, so there you go. Sometimes you got to make your opportunities, you break your opportunities, and you certainly made being the murder transcriptionist work for you.
Yes.
So I do enjoy our discussions of your brief career working as an intern on Bones, but let's switch tracks to what has been the greatest gift that anybody has given you in your career, whether that is mentor time, advice, what have you.
Well, I'm a legacy working mom. I have a 4-year-old son, and for the first almost 2 years of his life, I was in grad school, so I was doing this work at home, work away from home, work during nap time, work, whenever kind of thing. And I was cobbling it together that way. But my mom was a corporate woman with a 45-minute one-way train ride for 36 years. And,
oh, God.
And I am the oldest of 3 children. So, 3 kids, career woman, corporate type, which is not a bad thing. That's just what she did.
I'm imagining shoulder pads.
Oh, shoulder pads and the skirt with the nylons and the socks and the gym shoes on the way to work. And you
oh my God!
Your shoes when you get there.
I'm imagining your mom is Murphy Brown. Don't dispel my notion, but continue.
That would be accurate. And so I, of course, took a lot of advice from her throughout my I can't say it's my career now because it's still ongoing and new in some ways, but I always take good advice from her. And some of my favorite bits of advice that she's given me are, the first is take care of number one. I haven't figured out what that means yet, but it's good advice when I get stuck at something. Like, well, who is number one? Is it me? Is it my primary job? Is it, my son? Like, who is that? But when I get stuck on something, I always think, okay, take care of number one. It's even a good procrastination buster. Like, just do that one thing, the most important thing right now. So that's one piece of advice. The other is there will never be the balance that you want. Whatever balance you are trying to cultivate in your life, whether it's, and it's not necessarily in the broad categories of career, home, personal, but even within your career, mentorship, tasks, projects, advancement, just getting by day to day, you're never going to have the balance that you want. So you just got to do the best you can. And I think of that too when I get stuck. But I think the best gift she has given me actually relates to my theater training. And have you ever taken any improv classes?
I have. The only character I can be is myself. It always devolves back to me. But continue.
Well, as you know, but perhaps for our viewers at home who have never taken an improv class, the number one rule of improv is you never say no. You always say yes and. And I love that because it's not just yes. You're just not agreeing to things. But the and allows space for growth, and it allows the scene to continue. So if someone says, wow, we've got a really nice fish in this weird aquarium, like, yes, and you go on. It's not always that literal, but you get the idea. So my mom has always encouraged me with a yes and. So I'll come to her with a wacky idea about something, even if it breaks her heart, like quitting my theater job. And she's like, okay, you've done that, and now what are you going to do? What? And it's the space of that. It's holding space for uncertainty, but possibility at the same time. So, her encouragement, I can't think of any gift that anyone has ever given me that has been as great as her ability and willingness to say yes and to my wacky ideas.
Yay!
Yay, Mom!
You always want Mama support when you're gonna pull a shenanigan. It's always true. Helpful because she's already prepared when you call her up and you're like, Mom, I got
too often. Too often.
Yep. Well, as long as it doesn't end up with you needing to be bailed out in Mexico, all's well that ends well.
Right.
Even if it takes a bit.
Yeah, well, it'll come back, We'll wrap up that scene where we started.
And what I love about that is the expansiveness of the yes and, because that's the thing, is that a lot of times people feel like, they aren't really in the driver's seat of their career. A lot of people feel stuck when really you can make pretty much anything an organic progression because it's you. Your career is in a lot of ways the value that you offer your community, how you use your natural talents, What I like about you, though, is that you are plucky. You are plucky as hell. And I love a person with moxie, So I don't know.
My next word. She's got some moxie.
I know. I do give compliments like I'm a 1930s, down on their luck PI, but that's that. You're just the cat's pajamas.
You gotta stay on brand.
That's just my thing, I guess. But I think that you would be really good at just giving advice for folks who have been feeling stagnant in their careers. That happens. You get career rut, if you will. And it seems like you're somebody who is just able to really just go and pivot. Do you have any more advice on how people can just shake things up?
Yeah, do anything else. Do literally anything else. And what I mean by that is, if you're feeling stuck, this is not for as much bravado as I have about just doing something else or pivoting or whatever. It's scary, and it hasn't always been as, a seamless process. But whenever I was feeling stuck, I would think about anything else I could do, either to get through that day or that moment or the next year or whatever it might be. And sometimes those are layers. So, if you feel stuck in your career and in your job, a job you hate or a job that isn't serving you in some way, but you still have to go to it. I mean, those day to day while you're waiting for something else to happen can be excruciating. So I always think about, what can I do today in this moment that will make me feel like I'm progressing towards something I actually want to do? And if you don't know what you want to do anything. I mean, go on some job sites and start looking at jobs or reading some career profiles and start noticing what speaks to you. I always get stuck on car sales job ads because I start imagining myself as like a really put together person who's like, hey, how's it going? Like, okay, I don't know if I'm actually going to sell any cars, but what is it about that job that appeals to me? Is it being an expert about something? That's it. That's exactly what it is. And so it may not be that exact thing, but you can start to get an idea of what you want to do. And there are plenty. This is kind of where I draw a hard line about getting, really riled up about stuff when people say to me, well, I just can't do anything. I'm not qualified to do anything, or I'm stuck here. And do you understand how big the internet is? Like, go to a forum or forum. We don't have forums anymore. Join a Facebook group about something you're interested in. It doesn't even have to be career wise. If you want to volunteer at an animal shelter, go do that. Just to give you something that feels good and it's going to move you toward something else. So I won't take that for an answer. I won't take, I'm totally stuck. Even go have lunch with a friend. I don't know. Find the thing about your job or your career that's actually doing something for you. That might just be, it pays enough to get by. Or, I have free time because I'm unemployed. I don't know.
Differently
employed. You're otherwise engaged in occupational transition. Oh, that one came up yesterday. If you're in an occupational transition, there are still things you can do. And sure, there are lots of times when you have to wait on somebody else to give you an opportunity, but there's at least one other opportunity that you can make for yourself, and you've got to find what that is. That's what I say about that. Yeah.
No, it's so true. And sometimes we have this issue, I think, for a lot of folks, especially in our age range, where we get stuck on our phones, and we get that FOMO, we get that comparison syndrome, and we look at other people's highlight reel, and it makes it so that we get very stuck on ourselves, and we get stuck on other people's kind of their own, highlight reels, what other people said for ourselves. So we kind of get in that place where we're like, oh, which honest to God, I'm in that place a lot, so there's definitely times that I'm
familiar with that topography.
Oh my God, when you're looking at some of your friends' Instagrams and you're like, how are you doing this? How do you go to all these places? Why is that Neil Patel? What's going on? So, we've all been there, but sometimes it does really help, as you say, just to do anything, shake it up. Inertia is the worst. So I would agree with that. And now, I do have one thing that, while this is not related to careers necessarily, I think I just get inspiration on the ways that people give back to the world. And I feel like in this, Dr. Kate, that you really are giving back to the world. Please tell everybody just a little bit about your Golden Girls research, and please just go into it.
You never ask. Well, I mean, I could probably talk about that too, but it is, it's a pet project of mine, a passion project. And one of the conferences I started going to was a popular culture conference. It was the national conference. And, I started thinking about, well, what do I do with pop culture? I have been a fan of the Golden Girls, since I was small, like a small girl. And I don't even think I ever saw it on broadcast. It was always on syndication. It's been running constantly on syndication on some channel for 25 years. So it's always on. And so, the deeply emotional part of me is whenever all I have to hear is the first, couple of measures of the theme song. And it is almost a drug-like effect. I can feel myself being more calm and ready to face whatever challenge I have. So, in that way, it's just something that's always been. In fact, my best friend called me this morning, and there's an episode of The Golden Girls where Rose has a chicken that plays the piano, like pecks the piano. And apparently there was a piano playing chicken on America's Got Talent last night. And she said, Count Bessie is alive and well. So it's a bonding thing for my friends and I, and it reminds me of my grandma and all of these deeply emotional things. And I thought, why can't I do research on this? There's got to be something that I can contribute to the body of television culture research using the Golden Girls. And it seemed to me like, well, this has to have been done already. Somebody has to have written a book or an article about the Golden Girls. No, they have not.
What?
They have not. No.
Academia has failed, except for you.
There are two published academic articles, and one talks about their clothes and how, which is super fascinating, not just the symbolism of it, but how Betty White and Rue McClanahan had stock wardrobes, but Stella Getty and B. Arthur had custom made. And I just love B. Arthur's wardrobe in that show. And sometimes I look at it and go, someone had to make a choice about that. They made a very specific, customized choice to put a little bow tie on her, evening wear. So I started doing some of the research, and the more I watched it, this is a spoiler of my research. That doesn't even happen in research, but here's my argument. We break down the Golden Girls into 4 archetypes, basically. And we all know what they are. Even if you've never watched the show, you probably have an idea that Dorothy's the smart one, Rose is the ditzy one, Sophia is the smart and sassy, or zesty, feisty, and full of old world charm, like Rose's sister, and Blanche is the slut. Right? Like that's all we've got. But there are certain themes that come up in episodes that really twist those ideas. And that's when I think that it's the most fascinating. So, for example, we always, and I guess the career talk, since we're on it, will bring up Rose. So Rose is the ditzy one, right? But she's also the all-American girl. She does everything right. She marries the steadily employed insurance salesman. She lives a quiet, frugal life in Minnesota, and everything is fine, right?
One thing to know, though, is if you watch the show, you find out that Rose is the one who her and her husband banged every day, and that startled the hell out of Blanche. So
that's such a good episode.
Carry on. I just wanted to point that out.
The bull was jealous of Charlie. Yeah. So she's done everything right, but the meta theme for Rose is that she's always worried about money. She has to go get a part-time job when the pension runs out, And Charlie, fritters away his investments. And so she's got to explain to little Charlie, her daughter, why there's no money in the estate. And she goes 2 different times to get a job. She works at a restaurant first, and it's really hard on her because she's older and everybody's like, why are you doing that? She's like, how am I going to get any money? I mean, and she's roommates, like she's in the twilight years and she's got to live with roommates because she doesn't have any money. Right. And so when, stepping back and how is the American dream not served Rose? And that's kind of what that chapter is all about. It's like, that's what's really interesting about Rose is that she's coming up. She's older in the 80s, a time when the people of her generation were supposed to be taken care of, and she's not. So that's way more interesting than Rose is the ditzy blonde one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. See, this is why, and I know you sent a book proposal and let me know when this book, what happens, even if you just do a Lulu printing and you just ship it to me. I really feel like I already love where this is going. I love where this is going. So each one, there's a different kind of twist on the narrative of what these women are supposed to be about. And it's such a great show because and this argument was made in the other academic article that it sets up the all-female ensemble on TV, like for Sex and the City and other shows that I don't watch that have female ensembles, but they would usually have the 3 women, or they'd have 2 and a guy, or they'd have some other combination. But it had never been done before, where it was 4 women who were the main characters in creating this ensemble. So there's lots to dig in there. And so even if the book proposal doesn't work out, I'll find another way to get this research out there. But it's a risky move because, somebody had mentioned because I'd given a presentation about Dorothy at one of the popular culture conferences. And it's a line on my CV that I did this presentation. And the title of the presentation was, Dorothy, jealousy is an ugly thing, and so are you in anything backless. Performance and performativity in Dorothy's Bornak, right? So they read that on my CV, and where are you going with this research? A lot of academics in the humanities would prefer your CV to be a clearly defined narrative with a beginning, middle, and end and a clear trajectory. And I just don't have that. So people say, well, why are you wasting your time writing about the Golden Girls if you're not going to be a professor in popular culture? Because that's how I want to live my life. I don't know any other way than to do the things that I find interesting. So yeah, they're not ever are they. I just discovered I can write things using Live TV, and I decided the most important messages should be Golden Girls oriented. Yes. And I believe that every sound-minded person in the world would agree. I couldn't be more happy that they're streaming on Hulu now, because no longer do I have to get up and put in a new disc when I am watching the show for 50 hours a day. Just let it go. Important research. I actually had to get another copy of the DVD set because I had worn down some of the discs in it. That's a risk you take with analog media. Or no, I guess it's digital media, but analog hardware. Still, it's a sign of your dedication to your craft.
Or pathology. I don't know. Either way. I'm going
to look at it with a glass half full. In that you're just a driven go-getter. That's what I'm going to think. But besides Golden Girls, what else are you working on right now? I know that your website is Kate Brown with an E. .net.
That's right.
But what else are you working on right now that you'd like to share?
So as of yesterday, I had to kill one of my business darlings. So this is all brand new, which is why I don't have a page or anything for it. But I basically have two things going on right now in addition to my academic work. I have Taking Up Space with Kate Brown, which is, like I mentioned before, it's definitely a passion project, and it's a space where I talk about body positive fitness and body confidence. So I have a Facebook page for that. It's Taking Up Space with Kate Brown, and it's also on Instagram. You mentioned my Instagram account, and the content on there is different. I don't tend to repeat content. So the Instagram account is more for my workouts, and then the Facebook page is more about just thought pieces, either that I have or that I share, and just stuff that's going on with me. Because I don't want people to fall into that weird Facebook thing, and they're like, Kate's so much better than me. She works out all the time. And while that's true, I don't want anybody to feel bad about that. A specific choice to follow me on Instagram. And that's been ongoing, and it's great. And I'm a Body Positive Fitness Alliance professional, which means I am qualified to give advice on body confidence advice. I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say. But that's where I'm affiliated through, and that's been the core of my work. And of course, and this all stems from my dissertation, which was about weight loss memoir, and how rhetoric teaches us how to be certain kinds of people. So I'm bringing that to that non-expert audience. So instead of saying weird things like performativity, I can say Instagram teaches us how to be people, because we watch. And then the other project, the brand new project that I'm so excited about, it's something I'm calling the Wealth in Knowledge Mastermind. And it is a group, and it's going to be a program for people who want to be academic entrepreneurs. There's a lot for academics out there about transitioning away from academia or making that kind of career pivot. But I'm more interested in career pivots that if people want more money, they don't have to go out and get a part-time job that has nothing to do with their field, or do other kinds of things that take up their time but don't add to their academic reputation. I want us to be academic entrepreneurs together and take those skills and find ways to work with what you already have. So that's why it's called Wealth in Knowledge, because you already have a wealth of knowledge. You're going to put wealth in your knowledge and get some of that. Because I think what I found is that entrepreneur circles and academic circles, they speak, they're talking about the same things. They just use different words. Like know, like, and trust factor is reputation. They're the exact same thing. We just use different words when we talk about them. So what I hope is that people who are professors or professor adjacent will see that some of the things that they're doing to get their speaking engagements and submit book proposals and get funding for their research is actually entrepreneurship. And so they can use that to do other things and find other opportunities. So they're not sacrificing. Well, the tagline I have is side gigs and CV lines.
Ooh,
we're gonna do that together.
This is clever. I like it. Wealth and knowledge. No, and this is something that, because I understand, I've been professor adjacent and I see adjuncts. Like I was working at a tech college where I had this one guy who was like in his 50s, and this is in Arizona, mind you, where we have distances. He was working at 4 different colleges. 2 of them were tribal colleges where he had to drive to the middle of nowheres in Sells, Arizona, which you've never heard of because it's literally in the middle of nowhere. And he was able to, for years and years, just hustle around to make this stuff happen. And a lot of academics don't realize that they can get a different sort of support. And I think that especially adding like a mastermind thing, because you don't always see that in academia. Sometimes academia can be lovely, but sometimes it can be as frosty. It can be a little frosty. So this is a fantastic thing. And I'm really glad that you came on the Career Kickstart, because we've had a lot of fun, and I really love how you have just been like, you know what, I'm owning the fact that I have this huge squishy brain and it can do so many cool things, and I'm just going to use my career to really just be an extension of all the things that I want to give. And I really like that a lot of what you're doing is service to people's need for more information about Golden Girls.
Right.
You're really a giver and possibly one of the greatest humanitarians of our time, depending on how you feel about Golden Girls.
Yeah. Even though they have many incredibly problematic diet-focused episodes, all our faves are problematic, and they're trying to go to the Twins cruise. You gotta wait for that. So it's been lovely. I really, really appreciate being on here and being, let's tell more people about academic entrepreneurship if they are so inclined to be that. Yeah. Woohoo!
Awesome, Kate. You are spectacular, and I'm just going to remind everybody that her website is katebrown.net. So there you go. Instead of Ann with an E, it's Brown with an E. So thank you so much again, Kate. And for the Career Kickstart, I am Sami Gardner, and you have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Find something cool at cool.careerkickstartacademy.com.